Hello and welcome to the Discovering the Child conference, a conference put on by the Prepared Montessorian Institute, an organization that is energized by making the Montessori approach relatable to adults and clear and attainable in the most innovative ways so people can be more informed adults working with children in their lives with the Montessori principles in action. I hope that goal of ours comes through over the next 24 hours at our conference. I'm excited that you're here. I'm Joel Mendes. I'm our executive director at the Prepared Montessorian Institute, and I cannot wait to learn. I cannot wait to learn over the next 24 hours in a conference that spans the globe. I'm so excited to see all of the people that are coming together. We have over 70 countries that are represented, either as speakers or participants in our conference. I mentioned it's taking place over the next 24 hours. Not that any of us are going to be awake over the next 24 hours, but somebody in the world is awake at all the times, and Montessori, like the world, doesn't stop. And so we have cultivated and partnered with and collaborated with some really remarkable people who are bringing their unique perspective into how they have continued to learn from children and discover what it is that children do and why, and how to set up the best circumstances for them to grow. So in the spirit of Maria Montessori herself, I'm excited to spend this time discovering the child alongside of you. That's a constant quest that we're all on together. Don't worry though, if you cannot watch for all 24 hours, if you're not going to be awake for the whole time, I hope you enjoy jumping in and jumping out and folding this into your day. But also be fully aware that these will be available. The talks that we have, the learning experiences that we have will be recorded and will be shared over the next 14 days for those of you who are attending the conference. So you can look over that schedule and you can find what it is that you just can't help but enjoy, even if it's not right in the sweet spot for your life. I know how busy everybody is. I thank you for taking part of your weekend to join with us, and hopefully you get a lot out of this. I think you will. What I love about this is that we are bringing in voices who have unique viewpoints about Montessori education. We have a group of really thoughtful Montessori educators who maybe didn't know each other, maybe were connected in loose ways before, but have come together for sharing their understanding that they've gotten as to how to bring the Montessori approach alive into children's lives, and why it is that the Montessori approach is both timely and timeless. So what do we mean by that? Timely and timeless. Timely because we find ourselves at a pretty unique spot in at least modern history. I know there have been widespread illnesses that have struck over the world before, but not anything in our lives, at least in most of our lives. Maybe somebody's out there who's lived through a pandemic before, and I'm so happy you're here and you're continuing to learn at that stage in your life if that is the case. But for most of us, this whole past year and a half has thrown everything for a loop. We know this. But imagine what this is like to be a child at this point. Imagine what their life has been like if in their formative years, in the years that Maria Montessori says they have sensitive periods, they have particular aptitude to develop and grow in very particular ways at different stages in their own lives. And those stages were interrupted. There are 3-year-olds who are ready to become social beings and go out there and maybe start school for the first time and socialize and discover themselves and what they're capable of in the midst of a social environment for the first time. And then that was delayed. There are people who started it, children who started going out there and then stopped. There are children who switched to virtual learning before they even understood what a computer was, how to navigate it at all. All of us were interrupted in different ways, and children were, I think, especially. And so how do we take that circumstance and then we take the current circumstance where different places in the world are at different places with reopening and with having new waves coming in. We don't know exactly where it's going to be, but we do know that some children are going back to school. Some children have been back in school. Some children are not going to go back to school. They're going to stay in a virtual environment. Some children have the opportunity to go back to school but want to stay in a virtual environment. But the reality is that children have experienced something monumental in their life. Their upbringing is forever changed because of what we've gone through as a global society over the past year and a half. And they need something in particular. They need to re-engage and have human connection. They need to understand how they can contribute to their community that they've been a little bit removed from. They need to learn, how do they view their parents as both their parents and their educators, which maybe has happened more frequently over the past year than in previous times, and transition to that to now learning from their teachers, their educators if they're going back to school. How do they maintain curiosity about far off lands if they haven't been able to travel? There's a lot that children need in this moment. They need security, they need love, they need their anxiety and their nervousness about becoming ill themselves and not really understanding everything that's going on, but understanding that it's been monumental. And I think that Maria Montessori's approach is actually the perfect thing for this. So it's almost as if, it's of course not true, but it is almost as if Maria Montessori designed her pedagogy to be able to respond to catastrophic and challenging events that will come over repeatedly in history in different times. Now, what she did do was develop her pedagogy during some similar times. I mean, she was working with children during the flu pandemic in 1918. She was working with children during World War I, during World War II. She was in Italy during fascist regimes. She was actually exiled from Italy and not even allowed to go to her homeland. She was Italian herself for a long period of time because of political and social movements that she was counter to in certain ways. So she lived through really tumultuous international events and understood how children respond to that. So in certain ways, we're better prepared if we enact the Montessori methodology today than we would have been had Maria Montessori not lived through those times. It's almost as if she created this pedagogy to be right for children at any moment in history. And that's remarkable. I mean, think about that for a second. It's as if she created something that's absolutely perfect for the year 2021, even though she is no longer with us, even though she was working with children 100 years ago. And that, in that sense, it's timely and it's timeless, because the next time there's something that we have to adjust to as a society and that we have to shepherd children's experience through, we can also turn to Maria Montessori. So discovering the child together, on the theme of timely and timeless, I think you'll hear this come about. We're all thinking about, what do children need now and how can we provide it for them? And what's the source? How are we going to learn that? It's by continuing to discover the child. It's by continuing to observe, to listen to children, both what they're saying and what they're not saying, but they're telling us in other ways. So we have this timely and timeless pedagogy and methodology of working with children, and we have a perfect moment to prove that it is both of those things and to continue on the quest of discovering the child. So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you from wherever you are, in whatever language you're listening in. I'm speaking English, of course, but I know this is going to be translated into other languages. We're reaching audiences far and wide, and I'm very excited for that. But what I'm more excited is actually to participate, to learn, and to listen to the stories that are out there. I have my own perspective. I'm a Montessori educator. I'm a trained Montessori educator, specifically certified to work with young children ages 3 to 6. I'm also a father of 3 children. I've worked as a high school teacher, a middle school teacher, a teacher of adults learning new things in their later stages of academics. I've worked with young children, of course. I've been a school administrator. I now work helping other adults learn more about the Montessori approach themselves with the training organization and professional development organization. So I've had the fortune of viewing the Montessori approach in a variety, with a variety of perspectives. I've met a lot of people who are just getting into Montessori education. They've heard about it. Like, Montessori education, isn't that the one where everybody just lets the children do whatever they want and the children run wild and we all sort of sing at the end of the day and am happy? And of course that's not true. So I've helped people relate their own maybe small perceptions of what Montessori might be to the reality of what Montessori education could be. And I found that there are a lot of these misconceptions and a lot of small ways in which Montessori can be misunderstood. But I've also worked deeply with people who research this as a career and who really are looking at, they've been in the Montessori educational world for decades and they know everything about it and they're still learning more. So no matter where you are in that journey, if you're brand new, if you've barely heard of Montessori, but it piqued your interest a bit, maybe if you're even skeptical about it, or if you've been studying Montessori and making it your life's work for your entire adulthood, maybe you were even a Montessori child yourself, I'm glad you're here because both of those perspectives, or all of those perspectives in between, are quite rich. And we're going to learn from people who have so many more perspectives than I've had the opportunity to have, or that you've had the opportunity to have firsthand. I mean, I like to, again, enjoy the fact that I've gotten a chance to be a Montessori father and a Montessori teacher and a Montessori school administrator and a Montessori colleague to others, viewing it from lots of ways. But I've never been a Montessori mother. I've never been a person discovering Montessori and working in another field. I've never lived outside of North America. There's so much, I don't know what it's like to be a different ethnicity. I don't know what it's like to be a different age. I only know my own perspective, but there's so much richness in learning from everybody else's viewpoints. And I'm excited to bring all of the viewpoints together under one digital roof over the next 24 hours at the Discovering the Child event. We have parents who have found Montessori education through social media and are sharing it through social media, and for the first time really working directly with educators in Montessori. And that's a fascinating time to learn so much about it as a parent and to now bridge the gap and learn from people who study this professionally. We have some of the foremost Montessori researchers looking to see, does Montessori education add up to everything we think it adds up to? Can we empirically look at evidence and understand that children with a Montessori education have predictable outcomes that we can count on and that we can strive to bring to more children, or we can understand maybe we need to adjust because there's something it's not quite doing for children? I don't know if that's the case, but maybe, and that's what researchers do, is they learn to see, does this work in the way that we would expect it to work or hope that it works? So you'll hear from Dr. Angeline Lillard, one of our keynote speakers, who has done tremendous work in this field and compared Montessori education to other educational methodologies. You're going to learn from authors of books about bringing Montessori into your approach as a parent. You're going to learn from researchers and academics in fields outside of Montessori education, from Montessori teachers of young children, from Montessori teachers of elementary or primary age children, people who have worked with adults, people who have been found Montessori last year, and people who have been working in Montessori for 40 years, people who live in countries around the world. I mean, I can go on forever. There's so many unique perspectives and so many rich perspectives that come from this. We're all better off listening to stories and thinking about our own experience in the context of the greater world. I'm excited, as I hope you could tell. I think you can tell in this little welcome. So I hope you get a lot of it. I also hope that you find this to be a little bit more than just another online conference. I mean, I'll say it. I know that there have been so many online events. You're so used to seeing people with these things in their ears and talking on Zoom and connecting with your own family at a distance so frequently. And we didn't want to just create another one of those experiences, but we also didn't want to abandon all that's good that comes from bringing the world together digitally. As I mentioned, of course, we get the chance to have over 70 countries involved, and without needing the burden of travel, the cost of travel, making this accessible to a much wider audience of people who otherwise wouldn't be able to come together in this same way. And we wanted to still make it a little bit unique, a little bit quirky, a little bit fun. So I hope that you get a chance to experience more than just the keynote talks, which I think are going to be insightful and challenge intellectually each of the people who experience them. As I mentioned, the people that are talking are definitely worth listening to. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. But I hope you also take time to just dive in and have some learning experiences. For example, we have a wonderful presentation on studying art that is intended for you to stop for a minute and study a piece of art alongside an expert in this category. And not to think about how will you do this for children. I mean, yes, that will come about as well. But just how do you do this for yourself? How do you live your own life fully? We have something that I never thought would come together, Montessori wine tasting. How could you approach something as an adult as wine tasting? In the Montessori lens? How do you apply the principles of Montessori education to our own experiences to get the most out of life? To be honest, as an educator, one of the things that I lament the most, actually, about many educational models that are out there is that it seems as if wherever a child is in his or her development, let's say there's a child who's 4 years old and is in a preschool type environment. It seems like many preschools out there and many families view preschool as practice for a future stage in life. It's like, why do you send your child to go to a preschool? Because someday they're going to be in real school. They're going to be in kindergarten, they're going to be in first grade, and they're going to need to be ready for kindergarten and first grade. So I send them to preschool so that they're ready for a couple years down the road. Okay. And then when they're in kindergarten, when they're in their first few years of an elementary school, it seems as if the reason that a lot of people think that children are in elementary school is so that they can be prepared for that next later stage in life. They need to be prepared for when they're in middle school. And when they're in middle school, they need to be prepared for when they're in high school. When they're in high school, we prepare them for college. You know, you can see this going on. It seems as if each moment in a child's educational development is actually, the emphasis is on the future. And what's compelling about the Montessori approach to me is that the emphasis in children's development in the Montessori approach is on that moment in their development. In other words, what's the best way that a high school student can prepare themselves for college, for university? I don't believe that it's by practicing being a university student earlier. I think the best way that you can prepare for a future state in your life, a future stage in your life, is to live in the current stage as fully as possible, to get the most out of that high school experience. Because if you get the most out of that high school experience, guess what? You're going to be prepared for that university experience because you're growing and developing along the way. And you're also going to be prepared to get the most out of that university experience. And this goes on in any stage. How do you get the most out of a preschool environment? How do you become most prepared for kindergarten? You live completely in the time before you're in kindergarten. So what sort of a model can we set for the children in our lives? We can live completely as adults. That's what they need from us. So I hope you take a little bit of this time to live completely as adult. Join us in some of those extra activities that we've developed for you that are for you, not just to reflect on how you can work with children in the future. We also have lots of opportunity for engagement. We have panel discussions, we have question and answer sessions. Feel free to throw a bunch of questions in the chat. There's lots of ways that we hope that you can be engaged in this. There might even be a couple surprises that come about throughout this as well. There are booths of people who have missions out there that are related, that would like to share their information for you, share opportunities for you. I mean, not everything is pragmatic. Some of this is going to be just for you to learn. But if you're here and you wanted to find a job, there's probably people who are looking to hire. If you're here and you're trying to find an approach to work with your children, there are people here who'd love to talk to you about what they've learned in working with children. If you're here looking to know what learning materials could I purchase to help set up my child, there are people here who'd love to share those ideas with you. So check out some of those booths, talk to people. There's even chances to randomly click and join a one-on-one conversation with somebody else who's on here and just wants to talk to somebody. So check out all the features that are around you. I hope you engage with them. I hope that you have an experience that's a little bit unique and definitely a lot rewarding. I think you will. Enjoy the next 24 hours. enjoy the next 14 days after this to be able to watch recordings of anything that you've missed, and enjoy just knowing that there are people in many, many countries around the world with many viewpoints who care about children and who care about doing the right thing for children in the same way that you do, who can answer questions, who can ask questions to you, who can help you with your own quest, whether it's as an educator or as a parent, and come together in order to both discover more about how we can serve children and enact what we discover. So thank you. Thanks for being here. And let us know how we can connect in the future. I hope you enjoy it all. I'd love to hear about it either way. Open for feedback, and definitely want to make sure that your experience is worth it. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for joining us. And let's go discover the child.